Welcome back to the Battery Podcast. I'm Aiden,
And I'm Jack.
and we are very excited to be joined by Cannon's legendary goaltender, Jordan Burke. We'll get into his accolades, but the guy who brought Boston its first championship in the net. Um, you know,
Mm.
w- when we were looking at the 2011 team, the guys we wanted to talk to, he was right at the top of the list, and we are very grateful for him for spending however much time he spent with us. Um, Yeah, I think let's just dive into our conversation with Jordan Berg.
Let's do it.
And big thank you and welcome to Cannon's championship MVP, championship winning goaltender, multi-time All-Star, living legend, Jordan Burke. Jordan, thanks for coming on with us tonight.
It's been a while since I've been introduced that way. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I think Jack and I were talking before you came on that you're definitely like someone that we both looked up to, when we were younger, high school and thereabouts. And obviously seeing you win that championship, Boston's first, definitely meant a lot to us as lacrosse fans. So thanks very much for sitting down with us.
Cool. I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, So I guess maybe we'll just start at the beginning of your career here. Is when you were at Brown, kind of what were your thoughts about going pro, both in like how realistic do you think that was for you? And then the other side of like how much like what did you think of the MLL as a league? And trying to play professional lacrosse.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, so I went into college. My freshman year at Brown was 2005, 2006. So the MLL was around for 5 years. I guess at that point. So rather young as a professional league. So I was obviously a lacrosse fan. I had, watched games when they came on ESPN2 at the time, and kind of followed it, very loosely in the summer. And then, in college, my experience at Brown, which was incredible, but my freshman year, we were 2-11. We got a new coach, myself, came in. I started my sophomore year. We started to try and kind of turn things around. I think we were 500 that year, and then ended up, winning the Ivy League my junior year, making it to the NCAA tournament my senior year. So really, my focus in college was just kind of building, on success and trying to turn the program around at that point. So I was, laser focused on Brown lacrosse at the time, and just trying to be, personally trying to be the best goalie that I could be. So, my sophomore year, I think like my stats were really good, and people started talking. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that I'm doing all right, and we're starting to win some games, and then got the All American accolades junior and senior year, and so my senior year, I think it was something that I had aspired to do. But again, it was, at that point in time, it was really all about college lacrosse and trying to get as far as we could. That season into the NCAA tournament, and then it wasn't really until after we ended up losing to Hopkins. I lost to my brother, so that's a
Oof.
sour note in the career. But
Yeah.
uh, after that loss, he kind of like took a breath, took a few weeks to enjoy the remainder of college, and then just showed up to kind of the rookie combine before the draft, and I was hopeful to get drafted, but it was just kind of one of those things where it wasn't something that I was really had in my head too much, but when the opportunity came, I was definitely excited about it.
Awesome.
What was that like when you were drafted? Sort of, what was that experience? I know that there were a few years where the MLL tried doing the in-person draft and having guys there for the picks, kind of like you see in the big four drafts, but
Yeah.
obviously now the PLL is all remote. What was that experience for you? Did you get to travel? When did you find out you're getting picked? What was draft night like?
Yeah, draft. So I think the combine and draft were all kind of one weekend, or maybe even the same day.
Hmm.
Um, So it was in person. I think we were in New Jersey somewhere, and I mean, yeah, for me it was a really cool experience because um, you know obviously I think it played against some really high competition in the Ivy League at Brown, but it was really cool to kind of come to the combine and everyone was there who was who was going to get drafted. So it was kind of that first taste of okay, these are all the best players in the country of college lacrosse kind of here together, and the competition was still really high. People wanted to succeed and wanted to kind of put their best foot forward for, in front of coaches and GMs. And so it was a really cool experience kind of being there on during the combine. We did some drills, we did some scrimmages, so there's a chance to compete with some of those other players, and then we did some player interviews with coaches and general managers. So I got an opportunity to kind of meet all of the front office personnel from all the different franchises. Was in those interviews was kind of hoping that I was going to land in Boston. Just kind of I mean, Washington would have been cool too. I'm originally from the DC area, but being at Brown, kind of being in New England, just kind of felt like I wanted to stay there. I wanted to kind of start my professional career outside of lacrosse up in Boston as well. So there's a really good mesh of opportunity that I was hoping to land there. And definitely, when you hear your name called and you go up and shake the commissioner's hand, it's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so awesome. Was that the first time that you met Bill Day at the draft?
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was.
Well,
It was. The whole experience was kind of interesting because you're talking to a couple of different organizations, and some of them were tipping their hand a little bit more than others.
mm,
I think I remember talking to Chicago, and they told me we think you're a decent goalie, but we don't think you're a professional goalie. We're looking for a goalie. We're gonna look else. So you have some of those things that you kind of keep the chip on
Wow.
your shoulder.
wow.
But
Yeah.
with BD and the can, I kind of felt like I was trying to sell them on myself, and
Mm,
he's kind of keeping it close to the chest, keeping his cards close to the chest. And then after he drafted me, he obviously kind of gave me some praise and told me how excited
mm,
he was to have me
mm,
as part of the Cannons, and was really great. Those first couple of years having Coach Day.
mm,
Just kind of having that relationship with him as a former goalie, obviously as a former Cannon as well. But
right.
it's a unique position, and to
Mm,
have a coach that kind of gets that
mm.
was definitely helpful to start my MLL career.
Yeah. Now, after that interaction with Chicago, do you remember what your first game against Chicago was like? I mean, hopefully you got the win in that and proved them wrong.
Yeah, I think we did. I think it was in Chicago. I don't think I played though. It was an interesting, the start of my career. At the time, um, I was happy to get drafted, and I think it was a second round pick. But Boston had Kip and Mike
Mhm,
Levin as their goalies, and the league had just contracted down to 6 teams. So
mhm,
not too many goalie, kind of roster spots to go around. So spent that first year on the practice squad and just kind of going to as many practices as I could and get a feel for being part of the team. Next year, Kip was I think he ended up being the goalie of the year that year. So it was tough to kind of get some playing time. I think we did split a couple of games where I played a couple of halves and start to get some action. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where in a small league and in a position where there's really only one of you that's playing, it's tough to break in.
Yeah. Um, but break in you did. So 2011, your first year as a starter, or the full-time starter, it seems like, um, you guys go all the way. So I guess could you just tell us a little bit about that season, maybe, leading up to it, if you felt like you were, a good team that you had a shot, and then that weekend, like the preparation and the celebration, obviously, could you just talk a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, I mean, going into the season, I mean, I think this at that point. this was kind of the story of the Boston Cannons franchise, right? Like we felt like we were really good. I think we had some awesome teams even those first couple of years I was there. 2010 we were I don't remember where we finished in the standings, but I think we may have been in first place in 2010, and I think we had a disappointing loss to the Bayhawks in the semifinals. So it was kind of like every year we felt like we had the roster to compete. Obviously, we had Paul, in midfield, Ryan Boyle at attack, and I think what was some of the we had a couple of key acquisitions in that 2011 season that I think ended up making the difference. Obviously, superstar type players, but in on a team that they were kind of able to play more of an unsung hero type of role. Guys like Kevin Buchanan, Mitch Belisle. We got Kyle Sweeney coming across, and obviously I'm naming some studs in the MLL. So not to say that they're kind of under the radar guys, but I think we just kind of had a sense of like everyone understood their part, and the collective of all of the parts. I think we felt like we had a chance to win a championship. So definitely felt like going into that year, we were going to be competing. And then, I just kind of remember the feeling of that season, just kind of being like our confidence continued to grow. For me personally, I think I came in game 2 or game 3, and started the rest of the way. And so, I remember the first couple of games, just kind of talking to BD, talking to Coach Day. He just wanted consistency. Give us 15 saves, be around 55%. And we're going to win games because we've got great pieces on this team around you. So you don't need to be a hero. And that was key for me because I think obviously I want to go out there and I want to make every single save and I want to be the best I can be. But kind of having those expectations and understanding of this is what I need to do for us to be successful as a team, I think kind of helped me ease into the professional, that being kind of my first season where I was getting significant minutes, kind of helped me ease into that role. And then, the championship weekend, like I said, I think at that point we were really confident. The semifinal game, if you remember, the Hurricane Irene came through. Our game was a little bit better than the first game or the second game, whichever one it was. Denver, Toronto, that was torrential downpour. I think the rain kind of subsided, but it was wet and kind of messy. But once Max Guanzani scored in the last second to send us to the championship. Yeah. And I just remember, once we got through that, kind of over that hurdle of getting into the championship game, I remember, Kyle Sweeney and Ryan Boyle, kind of telling everyone, kind of quietly, not boasting, but saying, we don't lose these games. When we get to the championship game, we don't lose. And they were, 3 or 4 time MLO champions at the time. I think with the Barrage, they had won a bunch. So just having that kind of, veteran leadership and kind of, sense of poise and confidence. I remember going into the Sunday game, just kind of thinking, that Hamilton was a great team, but there was no chance we were going to lose. So that was kind of the feeling we had, within the locker room.
Yeah. And what a tight electric championship. I think the final score is 10-9, which I think you'd be hard. Well, the Cannons just lost 8-4 to end their playoff hopes, but you don't see a lot of lacrosse games with the score that low, especially in the MLL where you played 12 more minutes. So, do you remember that particularly as being like a defensive battle or feeling like obviously you felt like you had to be locked in, but just any kind of special attentiveness or feelings around that game, or did you kind of just treat it like it's one more game we got to win?
Yeah, I think the latter. And I think that the special part about that team was, like I've named a couple of guys on offense that we knew we could put up points, but defensively, Jack Reed, Kyle Sweeney, Mitch Belisle. We had some awesome D middies and Matt Smalley and John Hayes came in at one point in the season. Matt Casey was part of the team. I just think we felt like we could play any style of game and we could win. So we could win a shootout like we did in the semifinals against the Bayhawks, or we could kind of grind it out and win a defensive battle. So You know, kind of the pace of play was dictated a little bit by Hamilton's style as well. They were, you know, not really a run and gun team, more of a patient offense. You know, Canadian influence that they like to get high percentage shots. So I knew that they weren't going to be forcing, you know, outside shots against me. So had to stay locked in, had to kind of stay patient a little bit because it wasn't getting the volume of shots necessarily to kind of get into a groove. Yeah, I think, like I said, we felt confident that no matter what kind of game it was, we were going to be in it till the end at least, and we had a good chance to win.
You know, that's something I'm curious about. You talk about seeing shots and being locked in. Aiden and I have talked about this that, on the Cannons, Colin Kirst says that he wants guys to shoot from 10 yards out as hard as they can when he warms up. But then Blaze Reardon doesn't like seeing any shots when he warms up. And so I'm just curious, as being a goalie, kind of what is your mindset like for that? Do you like seeing all of those shots? Kind of how do you get locked in and stay in the zone?
Yeah, I think I had a kind of somewhere in between in the sense that I got a ton of shots in warmups. I like to kind of feel the ball, but what I loved was not necessarily kind of live action shots before a game, but I would go out with at the time Coach Murphy was our offensive coordinator, and he would kind of have warm up duties, and I probably wore out his shoulder that season because I would stay in for kind of that kind of warm up and see, you know, 100, 200 shots, and then take a few kind of like, you know, when all the rest of the guys came out and whether it was kind of a step down shooting drill or like a 3-on-2 kind of drill in warmups, take a few of those. But that at that point is kind of when I bowed out pregame and kind of got some water and started to like mentally prepare. So I like to feel the ball, but a little bit different than Kirst probably, in the sense that I wasn't necessarily looking for Paul Rabel to come up and pull up from 10 yards before the game.
Yeah, that sounds normal and healthy.
Yeah.
Especially with some
Oh.
leaders the Cannons currently have too, like Azlanian and Campbell. You do not want
Yeah,
guys at full speed.
those guys
No.
can fire the ball. So yeah, I you know what, I'd like to think that I'm like one of the more normal goalie personalities out there, but who knows? You know, we're all a little strange, but
Yeah, that's actually brings up a good question. The goalie is such a unique position. I feel like every goalie's got some story for why you play goal. I never would have stepped in goal. Like there's no chance I would have done that. So what led you to becoming a goalie?
yeah, my story is kind of not knowing any better, to be honest. I grew up. I mean, I grew up in Maryland, where lacrosse was huge, but it was actually like I
Mhm.
played every sport. I played baseball, basketball, played ice hockey, um, and for whatever reason, I hadn't played lacrosse until middle school. And one of my good friends, you know, just kind of somehow recruited me and said, "Hey, we need a goalie. You're athletic. You know, you excel in all these other sports. We think you'd be good at it. Want to come out?" And so it was not till sixth grade that I picked up a lacrosse stick, and the you know, my first experience in lacrosse was playing goalie. So yeah, I think I chalk it up to kind of being naive and not knowing any better, but it is one of those things that like I just felt like I was naturally kind of good at it, and so just stuck with it and try to get better every year I played. Um, yeah, I think if I had started at a younger age, I'm not sure that I would have ended up in net, because I think I would have, you know, kind of gotten some other experience playing other positions.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like probably the most common story we get for goalies is that they had like an older brother who played offense, and the brother either wanted to play, but they had to, like, that was the stipulation,
Yeah,
or the older brother slash parents were like, all right, you need to step in front because this kid wants to play or practice, whatever. So
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that's the Curse family story, probably, right? I mean, he's got
yeah,
a bunch of
the
brothers
youngest of all of
that
them
are all
is
playing.
Yeah.
one of them has to be a goalie. Yeah, I mean, it's funny enough. I'm the oldest of three, so I got two younger brothers, and they all followed in my footsteps. So they were both goalies. My middle brother was a goalie at Hopkins, and
Wow.
then my youngest brother was a goalie at Colgate. So for whatever reason, I don't know what their story is, because they obviously had the choice. They saw my decision, and I guess they thought it was a good one. So
Yeah.
Yeah. How
You
about
gotta be like,
that?
oh, I guess.
they
Yeah.
can't quite claim naivete like I can.
Yeah, that's I think that's a first for me in all the sports that I follow, lacrosse, hockey, whatever.
Three
Uh,
goalies.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you guys just take turns shooting on each other in the backyard, or how does that work?
Yeah. Well, I think I I would say we became really good goalies not through lacrosse. We played basement hockey growing up in our
Mm,
basement, so that's where we would shoot on each other, and that's kind of where we kind of developed like the quick reflex and I guess kind of the mindset of being a goalie.
hmm
All three of us were also hockey players, but we all played forward in hockey, so that's kind of how it started for me at least. Well, when I told you the story, like when my buddy asked me to play goalie, I in my head I was kind of like, oh well, I played basement hockey goalie. I'm pretty good at it. I think I could do this. So I would yeah, if there's like a place where we develop those kind of goaltending skills, I would actually say it's probably in the basement playing hockey rather than shooting on each other out on the lacrosse field.
hmm.
That's awesome. And I think that goes to something that I'm definitely a big believer in is like cross sport training and like not picking one sport when you're young and focusing just on that. Like play whatever, because you never know how stuff is going to translate. Or just how much you might enjoy something that you pick up by
Yeah,
accident.
yeah. I mean, I think obviously there's a lot of specialization these days. I've got my own kids, and my oldest daughter is starting to play club lacrosse already, and it's a fall, winter, spring, summer commitment.
Mhm.
Uh, that's great. But yeah, I think if you talk to the best athletes in any sport at the professional level, there's a little bit of skill set that they would attribute to another sport that they played growing up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it's super important. It really develops you as an all around athlete, and those skills translate when you really hone in and specialize on your sport of choice.
Yeah,
Definitely.
for sure.
Going back to 2011 real quick, I just had a quick question. Where is your championship ring and MVP trophy now? Are those things that you display or reminisce on, or are they tucked away in the corner?
I know where they are. The MVP trophy is at my parents' house. So it's in my childhood bedroom.
Mhm.
It's kind of on display there with a bunch of other trophies that I had the biggest room of the kids in the house, and then when as the oldest, when I moved out, my younger brothers kind of came through and into my room, so they've kind of taken over my trophy section, and so now it's a good mix of all three of us with different awards and stuff. But mine, the MVP trophy, is there, and it's a cool one. It's got the it's got the Bud Light symbol on it, the logo.
Yeah.
So good sponsor for the MVP trophy. It's pretty cool. And then my ring, I have it's in my probably in my underwear drawer in my dresser. So take it out every once in a while to show the kids and let them know that I won a championship.
You break that out for fancy occasions at all? Like you go to a wedding, you put on the championship ring, or does that just stay the
Uh,
day?
I haven't done that. I'm trying to think the last time I wore it. Maybe I think I met up with BD a few years after in Boston somewhere and wore the ring. So no, I haven't broken it out, but might be time.
Yeah, I think us Cannons fans, it's been a while. We'd certainly love to see it. Um, yeah, so definitely the next, and maybe we can transition here to the PLL a little bit, but like the next, if you're ever at a Cannons PLL event, we would, we'd love to see the whole.
Homecoming next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Yeah, so talking about the PLL, obviously you played with Rabel, you played with Ryan Boyle, who's a broadcaster. Aside from, personal connections with them, do you have any kind of relationship with the PLL? Have you been to any cannons or league events? Or what's it been like for you since that league has come into existence and taken over the MLL?
Yeah, I mean, I know no official affiliation, but yeah, obviously we're had a relationship with Paul as a teammate. So when he first started the league and that news came around, I had texted him a little bit and just kind of congratulating him on taking that step and that leap. I attended the first year in Boston. I was bummed to miss this year. I was out of town for the I think it was like 4th of July weekend, so it was a tough one. I had
Yeah.
plans, and then I missed the quarterfinals because I was away on work. So just life gets in the way sometimes, but I'm excited to. I want to go when they're in Boston. Something that I'd be proud to kind of bring my kids to, and kind of that next generation of lacrosse fans. And I think it's super cool that Paul was able to bring back the Boston Cannons franchise. I think it meant a lot to him personally, and as a Cannons alum, it definitely means a lot. I feel like a connection to the franchise still. And obviously, for you guys too, and the fans to kind of have that name back is really cool. So, I'm excited to watch. Going forward, I watch. I watch them on TV, and it's an awesome league. I think they've done a great job. The level of competition is out of this world. I mean, I think the level of competition, I try to always sell that to people when I was in the MLL, because it really was incredible. The show that players can put on, and I think that's just gotten even better over the last few years. And then specifically at the goalie position, it almost feels like it's kind of like the golden age of goalies. It's just the talent and combined with the athleticism of some of the goalies. It's pretty incredible. And I'm more of like a traditional ball stopper. That was kind of my strength. Not as much kind of outside the cage. But I think right now what I'm seeing from some of the guys is the athleticism on display, but they're also premier ball stoppers. So it's for me that it's really fun to watch, and I think that's why you see some of the playoff game scores. The Cannons lose 8-4. Dobson's run with the Archers, 10-1. I mean, just some incredible stuff in the net.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a little bit about goaltending, like trends or changes. So yeah, you mentioned being like a ball stopper. Do you had any assists in your career, or do you step over the midline at all? Because that feels like, I mean, since Blaze Reed scored in college, and now that he scored this year
Yeah.
with PLL, that's definitely been a focus that we always. I mean, everyone always cheers when the goalie approaches midfield, but was that ever something that you ever got to do or tried to do?
I scored a goal in high school, and I had an assist. I crossed midfield and made a attackman made a backdoor cut, fed it to him for a goal in college. I think in the MLL, if I was crossing midfield, I was calling timeout even before my coaches could. So I don't think I was anywhere close. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. They do get faster as you get up the athletic ranks.
Yeah.
And then I was curious as well about the sweatpants trend among goalies. So we've seen not everyone in the PLL does it, and a Blaze doesn't, but a lot of guys do. Was that? I don't think you ever did. Was that something you considered? Was that on your radar, or was that even?
No, I was a weather guy, so I
Okay.
wore sweatpants in college pretty much almost every game until like being in Providence, and obviously college lacrosse being a different season. It's not in the middle of the summer. We started playing in February, so it did not feel like a spring sport. It was a winter sport in Providence. So I wore sweatpants a lot until kind of April, May rolled around. And then, in the MLL, I was just comfortable in shorts. But it's funny, the sweatpants. I remember, shooters being frustrated in college because I would make a couple saves with baggy sweatpants, and that pisses shooters off even more than making like a nice off stick save with your stick if it gets caught in your sweatpants. So I don't mind the trend, but for me, I was more of just a weather guy.
Yeah, I totally get that. I remember seeing one championship weekend. I think it was Brown. Their goalie had cut off sweatpants because I think the championship game was down in Philly or Maryland or somewhere. It was like 100 degrees on the field, and it's like at that point, just wear the shorts. Like you're not getting the benefit that you're wearing the sweatpants for.
Yeah, I think that's probably Jack Kelly.
Oh yeah, it was definitely Kelly.
Yeah, I think he was wearing shorts in the PLL though. So,
Oh yeah,
but it could be a superstition thing too. I mean, that's obviously with goalies. Once if you're wearing sweatpants and you make a bunch of saves and you win, it's hard to go to shorts. So they were. That Brown team was pretty special getting to the Final Four weekend. So I'm sure a lot of that was just doing the same thing for Jack and keeping that superstition of the sweatpants.
Yeah, that was very cool to watch, but tough. I remember. I think if Dylan Malloy had broken his foot, I think they had a real shot of winning the whole thing.
Yeah, it was that was awesome to kind of see. I talked about Lars coming in my sophomore year at Brown, and he obviously left for Virginia after that year, but to kind of see that being his journey, really bringing Brown back into the national spotlight was pretty cool. And I got a personal, really cool, unique experience during that run when they were playing Navy. They were going up. I forget who it was, but they're going up against a lefty goalie, and they didn't have a lefty on the roster at Brown. So Lars called me and asked me if I could come and come to practice before the Navy game and give the guys a left-handed look. So that was a lot of fun.
That's so cool. As a fellow lefty myself, I love seeing us get the wonderful treatment we so rightly deserve.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Just kind of going back to when you're talking about the connection you still feel to the Cannons organization, what did it mean to you to stay with the Cannons and play in Boston for your entire career and only represent that one team in one city?
Yeah, good question. It was obviously kind of looking back, I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. The Cannons as an organization, as a franchise, just they treated us really well. Thought it was really well run, and so I felt kind of blessed to be a part of that organization. Players have different kind of career paths, and some bounce around and love that experience too. And I'm sure that's great. But for me, it definitely meant a lot that they kept wanting me back, and that they felt like I was, a part of the franchise and a part of the organization, kind of a core piece year after year. Is kind of a special feeling to know that you have a place there, and obviously had to earn it every year. And we brought in guys, and there was competition every year, but just from a franchise perspective, really cool to kind of always be a part of the Cannons.
Yeah. And the flip side of that, I guess, how did you know when it was time to retire, when it's time to hang it up? So was that hopefully your choice and you didn't feel like someone took your job, but just what was that?
Yeah, it was my choice. It's one of those decisions that's never easy, and I wrestled with it at the time. And when people ask me how did I know it was the right time, like I don't know if it was the right time because I missed it dearly. I still kind of miss out, although I think at this point I'm probably washed. But I felt like for a couple of years I could keep playing. But it's just one of those things. I had my first daughter. She was turning 1. She had come to games that first year. And I just wanted to kind of spend time with my wife and family. And I was missing out on, it is you're making a commitment, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. But I started to miss out on some life events, some really good friends' weddings and stuff like that. So it got to a point where I kind of felt like I had made my commitment, to professional lacrosse, and that it was just time to kind of move on. But when you ask the question, how did I know it was the right time? I don't. I'm at peace with it, obviously, but I definitely missed it, and that connection. I kept that connection to a lot of the guys on the team for years after that, and kept in touch with folks, and I still have some good friends from Cannon's days that I stay in touch with.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you talk about sort of how it is a commitment, and it's hard, and you miss out on things. The other part of that is also that, especially back in the MLL days, even now, it's not, the $1 million that other pro athletes are making, but when you were playing, it really was not a full-time gig. So how did you balance not just life with being a pro athlete, but having, a quote unquote normal job with
Yeah.
being a pro athlete?
Yeah, and there were no air quotes. I mean, I had a regular job, I had a day job. So yeah, I was working at a software tech company in Boston, and yeah, just took some vacation day, for away games when it was a Saturday game. We're traveling on Fridays. Sometimes that means I'm taking Friday off from work and getting out there for practice Friday night, walk through Saturday morning. Obviously, being in Boston, helped for the home games where I could kind of feel like I had that balance where I didn't have to necessarily take off from work. But I mean, especially being a goalie, there's a mental kind of preparation side of it as well. Like I was someone who I like to watch film, so you have to carve out time, in your week, outside of work and whatever social commitments you have to put the film on the laptop and watch your opponents. So in a lot of ways, all of the preparation is what you would expect at the professional level. But you have that added challenge of like balancing that with like you said, quote unquote, a regular day job and regular life. So it was a challenge, but it was something that I always loved to kind of leaving work, and coworkers asking like, hey, you want to go out and grab a drink? And said, no, sorry, I got practice tonight. We got a game tomorrow. And explaining that. So that was it was fun.
Yeah. Did you get any of them to come to the games from that conversation, or?
Oh yeah, I had a good cheering squad of a bunch of friends from work and friends from around Boston. They were typically not sitting with the Cannons ball busters, but they were behind the goal, usually heckling me, actually, giving me a hard time.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think just a couple more questions and we'll wrap up here. Did you talk about watching film? Did you have any like shooters that you particularly loved seeing and people you particularly hated seeing? Because I gotta imagine, lacrosse goalie at the best of times, you're still giving up a good number of goals.
Yeah, shooters that I love seeing. That is you're putting me in a position where someone's going to be upset with that answer. But honestly, no, I don't think there was someone that I felt like that I love seeing them because I have their number. But I definitely loved seeing some of the best shooters in the league, just because you had to, like I said, you had to put on the film. You had to watch their tendencies and get as many advantages and little edges as you could because they were such great shooters. So guys like Drew Westervelt, for example, was always like a really fun challenge. I probably would tend to name like a bunch of outside shooters just because
Yeah.
to me that was kind of more of like, okay, this is your best versus my best. Once you get inside, some of the crafty attack men, like I think Brendan Mundorf scored like 100 goals on me. Same with Junior, John Grant Jr.
Oh yeah.
But some of those are like, I don't know what I can do, So
Mhm.
I always liked kind of facing the outside shooters. Kyle Dixon was someone that just his quick release and velocity. He definitely scored a good amount on me, but that was he was a shooter that I was always kind of trying to rise to the challenge for. Striebel, he was one of the best pure shooters that I went against, and at that point he was in the later years of his incredible career, but still had velocity on his shot and a ton of great movement on his shot and deceptive release. So yeah, there are a couple of guys that I would say kind of would haunt me a little bit, but those are the guys that I actually really loved facing because it was a good challenge.
That's great. And I mean, again, I don't want you to throw anyone under the bus by not naming them here, but like favorite Cannons teammates, or I guess did you feel like particularly close to the defense because you're kind of one unit, or just who are the guys that you loved chopping it up with either on the field or the post game?
Yeah. Actually, the opposite. I think I've got some great relationships with guys that play defense. After Cannon's time, and I played men's league hockey with Jack Reed. So yeah, he was in the Boston area, so stayed in touch with him for a bit. Always stayed in touch with Kyle Sweeney. Loved chatting with him and being teammates with him. But it was actually kind of more of the offensive guys that I would kind of chop it up with a bit because there's a little bit of like friendly banter and friendly trash talk during practices and walkthroughs and warmups. So a couple of my favorite, Will Manny and Kevin Buchanan, two lefties too. So kind of had that connection and always had good trash talk with them, friendly trash talk with them, and and we were good friends off the field.
That's awesome. You run a risk bringing up Will Manny on this podcast. I've been forever. It's
Oh,
for one fan.
got to get him on the field next year. I was so pumped when Cannon signed him this year, and I was so heartbroken when he didn't make the roster every single week after that.
Yeah.
But
hopefully, he's still got a little juice in him. We can get him out there next year.
I definitely think
exactly.
he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack, anything else you wanted to ask Jordan before we sign off here?
Yeah, I just had one more little fun one for you, Jordan. I know that athletes sometimes they have important reasons for their numbers. They can be super meaningful to them. Other times it can just be, I don't know, this was what the coach threw at me. But I just am curious to ask you specifically because my favorite number is 5. I was number 5 in high school. And so with you being number 5 as well, I was like, oh, that's sick. You're number 5. So is there any significance behind the number 5 to you, or is it just kind of the number that you were given?
It wasn't the number I was given. I definitely chose it. And I was 55 playing hockey, which also I don't know why. So I think I was kind of generally attracted to the number 5. I think I was 25 in high school because another guy who was older than me had 5 originally, and then I never switched. But then when I got to Brown, I was able to land on 5 and then kept that with the Cannons. So no, not really like a cool story or historical significance to it. But I think it's a great number.
I agree.
My brothers, I think, followed suit. They had a couple different numbers going through there, but they've all ended on 5 as well. So we've kept it in the family, and now it's just that's just the lucky number.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah, the 3 Burke number 5 goaltenders. What a trio.
Yeah.
Great.
For sure.
Yeah. So Jordan, just as we wrap up here, thank you so much. Just what are you doing like post playing career, and is there anything that you can promote or plug that you want to shout out while we have you?
So I'm working at a software company. So I've kind of been, like I mentioned, that was my first job even when I was playing with the Cannons. So I've kind of grown up in kind of some software development companies. So I'm doing product management for an accounting software now. They're headquartered in London actually, but we've got an office in Boston. So staying downtown Boston. So just kind of a normal job there, but I enjoy it a lot. But now, my kids are getting older, so I've got three kids, 9, 7, and 4, and my oldest is a daughter, my daughter, and then two boys. So my wife is coaching our girl, and then I'm starting to coach the boys lacrosse team. So if I'm going to plug anything, I'm going to plug Charlestown lacrosse.
All right.
And
There you
so
go.
if you're in the Boston area, you want to come see some youth lacrosse, come out and see Charlestown.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
All right, Jordan, thank you so much. We definitely love to have you on again, and we hope to see you out. Oh, hello.
Hello, we got a visitor.
That's the
Yeah, we hope to
Charlestown.
see
That's the
you in the
Charles. You heard
lacrosse
Charlestown
world.
lacrosse. It's the Charlestown lacrosse star. Say hi, Owen.
Oh, that's
Hi,
my
I
brother's
got a
name.
shout out from my school today.
Nice, dude.
There you go.
All right. Glad
Love
we got
that.
an appearance of one of the kids.
Yeah, I told you it was bound to happen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, love to see it. All right. Yeah, thank you so much. We'll try to get you out to some of the battery events that we're doing later, or this upcoming year,
Yeah,
2025.
Mhm.
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, love
yeah,
love to be a part of it. Love to stay connected, and would be happy to come on again. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This was fun.
awesome. Yeah, thank you
Awesome.
very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jordan.
Cool. Appreciate it, guys.
And thanks again to Jordan for coming on the pod. That was really cool chopping it up and reminiscing with him and really listening to him
Yeah.
reminisce. I mean, I've talked about it that just talked about actually in the YouTube
Mm,
video that the PLL did with us. 2011 was the first year that I started playing lacrosse. That was when I got introduced to the sport, and that was when I started following the Cannons. So that was obviously a great year for me, a year for you, a
yeah.
great year for all of us listening because we're Cannons fans, but
Mhm.
a great year for it to be my first year as a Cannons fan, I guess
Yeah.
I should say. And so, yeah, the fact that, yeah, Jordan Burke, MVP of that game, just,
Yeah. Nine
such
goals
a
allowed.
major part of that first season that really started my love for the Cannons. It's pretty cool to get to talk to him now.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, it's just so cool to hear from like that past perspective. And I've
Yeah.
heard and read and listened to some other players from the MLL days of what that thing was like. And you didn't go into a ton of detail, but just to hear what that culture was like of
Mm,
and just the procedures at the time of like the combine and draft being like the same weekend. Like you can imagine the NFL doing that. And
yeah,
I mean the in-person draft obviously is very cool. I do hope the PLL gets to that at some point. I'm sure they
I
will.
agree. Yeah.
It's just cooler to look at.
And
And
I hope they bring the combine
yeah,
back in general. And like the fact, yeah, the championship weekend that they would just cram Saturday, Sunday was like, I get it, but like that is kind of
yeah.
wild when you think about it in terms of other
Well, I mean,
sports.
yeah, it is pretty similar to what college lacrosse does, but
True.
yeah.
But they also, college lacrosse, you'll play like multiple games in a week, like once or twice during the season. The
Yeah.
PLL, I guess now with homecoming, you are doing the back-to-back days, but generally it's once a week. And the
Yeah.
MLL, you're mostly playing once a week, and then all of a sudden to make you play two days back to back is certainly a grind. I always loved that though, the slogan or the tagline that they always had for championship weekend of 4 teams, 3 games, 2 days, 1 champion.
Yeah, that's a
That
great line.
always got me so fired up. I
Yeah.
loved that.
Yeah, the PLL should, I guess they could do that for sixes maybe. Man, we always get so
Something
far
like
afield. We're
that.
supposed to be talking about Jordan Burke. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that 2011, I mean, that Max Quinzani game-winning goal in the rain as time expired is locked into my memory forever.
Yeah.
Just the euphoria that I felt in that moment. And then, they didn't win in like a last second goal in the championship, but especially because, I'd just gotten into hockey the year prior to see the Bruins win in June
Mm,
and then see the Cannons win in August was just it was a euphoric summer for me, which I didn't want to
yes.
say when Jordan was on to make him feel old. That was my freshman year of high school. Uh,
That was 5th grade
yeah.
for me. So, yeah.
Uh, yeah. Just an amazing memory for both of us, obviously. And honestly, like what a legendary team that he mentioned. So obviously him, who I don't think he would call himself a legend because he's humble.
Yeah.
Paul Rabel, obviously, Ryan
Obvious.
Boyle, Kyle Sweeney. All like I don't think Rabel's in the Hall of Fame because I don't think he's inducted himself, but you know, Rabel
Right.
and or Sweeney and Boyle are
Great.
obviously. Mitch
Yep.
Belisle, I think he's at least in the Cannons Hall of Fame, one of the best like stay-at-home defenders of the
Mm-hmm.
whole history of Major League Lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
You have Matt Poske, who came back from cancer and won league MVP.
Kevin Buchanan.
Yeah, Kevin Buchanan, American legend, like one of the first dominant
Oh,
American box players. Um, oh, he's another guy we should try to get on the pod because he also played
yeah.
years in the PLL. Like just an amazing array.
And
And Jack Reed, who is also someone that I looked up to for a long time. Chris Eck, who,
UMass
you know,
boy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Corsac, yeah. We could go on and on about that 2011 team
yeah,
and all the dudes that were on it. And it was honestly just so fun sitting here listening to Jordan bring up those names and bringing up names like
yeah,
Mundorf and Kyle Dixon and John Grant Jr. Well, I guess John Grant Jr. coaches for the Redwoods, so you do hear about him, but hearing some other names about guys that he faced off against, and it's like I haven't thought about that name in 10 years.
yeah,
Like Drew Westervelt. That is
yeah.
that is a name that I have not uttered since I was probably 16 years old. Like and that just unlocked so many memories when he brought that
I
up.
know.
Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so I mean, I don't know how old our average listener is, but hopefully they're old enough to remember the this glorious 2011 team.
Hmm.
Try to bring some people from the 2020 team on as well.
Yeah.
Obviously very different year from this one from 2011. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Um, but it was just a really cool time and thanks to Jordan. He seems like such a great guy. I mean, imagine your dad is championship winning goaltender Jordan Burke. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, him
cool.
saying that he breaks out the rain occasionally just to show the kids, hey, dad won a championship.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, not a big deal.
Nope.
Like
Um,
that's so perfect.
yeah. All right. So I think we've gone on gushed about him long enough.
Yes,
Um,
yes, we have.
yeah, I think we'll do our best. Hopefully his schedule will work out that we'll see him either at the Cannons homecoming and or at one or more of our watch parties.
Something.
I think we should do our darndest to get to a Brown lacrosse game after this too. Like a Brown
Yeah.
home game, not
Not
Brown.
one that come. Yeah. Well, I mean, Brown was
Yeah, it should be
here,
covered at Brown next
so
year.
we should be Harvard at Brown. So maybe
Yeah, all right.
that's the trip.
Um, NCAA, schedule that game for us, please, so we can go to it. Yeah. So thanks once again. I mean, just can't say it enough. And yeah, looking forward to bringing some more uh previous Cannons guests during this off season while we count down to the Cannons defending their title as Champ Series winners.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I think we'll be back in a couple of weeks with yet another exciting guest. And until then, go Cannons.
Go Cannons.
Boom.
Boom.